Between Europe and Asia, economic dialogue, humanitarian missions, multi-vector operating and the search for compromises in the world arena. How else does Kazakhstan participate in the development of the modern world? For more details, watch the program Kazakhstan International Vectors. Today you will find out in what integration processes do different countries participate, which international organizations that Kazakhstan is proud of its participation, and why the foreign policy of Kazakhstan is respected all over the world. Today, in the age of globalization, participation of any state in international organizations and integration associations becomes an integral part of its interaction with its neighbors and the outside world. Such issues as national and regional security problems or economic and trade cooperation are difficult for countries to resolve independently. Experts call the mechanism of international associations the most effective method for solving such problems.
It
is when several states come together to adopt some single rules and then bring their legislation into line with these rules, or on this basis the life of ordinary citizens crossing the border of those states, or activities of business entities and public organizations and political parties, and the implementation of all kinds of contacts at the international level becomes much easier. Therefore, countries attach great importance to their participation in the activities of these or those international organizations. And Kazakhstan is no exception. Since gaining independence, the Republic has joined a number of international associations, and within the framework of such work, it was able to achieve considerable achievements.
Все началось, вот если посмотреть, да?
If we look at history of how our state began, everything started with the fact that our leaders and our president understood that we in general are small from an economic point of view. It was necessary to achieve recognition. Recognition can be achieved in three ways: military, economic or political. We've chosen a political one.
Экономическим, политическим. Выбрали политический.
Здесь можно, в качестве примера привести председателя.
Here it is possible to cite as an example of chairmanship of our country in the OSCE in 2010. Moreover, this chairmanship was so successful that it culminated in the adoption of a specific document of the Astana Declaration. And in fact, the OSCE could not adopt such a large strategic document for more than 10 years. After the Istanbul Declaration of 1999, there were no such documents within the framework of this organization. Kazakhstan was able to find a compromise among all the member states of this organization and to achieve the adoption of such a very important document as the Astana Declaration.
Очень важного документа, как Астанинская декларация.
Developing cooperation with Arab and Turkic states, Kazakhstan since 1995 has been a member of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation. As the head of this association, Kazakhstan made efforts to include in its agenda such pressing issues as political, humanitarian and economic cooperation, combating terrorism, religious intolerance and gender inequality, etc.
Казахстан выступил инициатором создания еще одной организации, Исламской организации продовольственной безопасности.
Kazakhstan initiated creation of another organization, Islamic Organization of Food Security, secretariat of which is currently in Astana. And activities of this organization target the main goal: to solve the problem of global food security within the framework of the OIC. And one of the latest initiatives of Kazakhstan within the framework of the OIC is the last summit, which took place at the ministerial level in Astana in September 2017. And this summit was dedicated to the development of science and technology in the member states of OIC.
Вопросом развития науки и технологий, в государствах-членах Организации исламского сотрудничества.
Kazakhstan participated in the creation of many international associations. One of them is the Customs Union, which later grew into the Eurasian Economic Union. Today, in the post-Soviet space, this is the most successful regional international organizations, experts say.
То есть с самого начала
From the very beginning, within the framework of the CIS, Kazakhstan has always been in favor of an active form of cooperation. for more advanced and more in-depth cooperation, which we call integration. And now these initiatives of Kazakhstan have resulted in the form of this international organization. Initially, a customs union was established within the most prepared post-Soviet states, which at that time were Kazakhstan, Russia and Belarus. These states have signed corresponding agreements for the creation of a customs union. And on its basis, in the aftermath, a new organization of the Eurasian Economic Union was formed.
Впоследствии была образована новая организация Евразийский экономический союз.
The foreign policy of the Republic of Kazakhstan is traditionally distinguished by action, balance, pragmatism, constructive dialogue and multilateral cooperation. Historical, geopolitical and economic factors largely determined the fact that the country conducts a balanced multi-vector foreign policy based on principles of international cooperation, good neighborliness and respect for territorial integrity of other states.
На сегодняшний день, например, участие Казахстана в деятельности такого авторитетного органа.
Therefore, to date, for example, Kazakhstan's participation in the activities of such an authoritative UN body as the UN Security Council is not a mere coincidence. Kazakhstan in 2017-2018 for 2 years will hold a post of a non-permanent member of this organization. In January 2018, Kazakhstan will have this body, that is, the UN Security Council. Kazakhstan has been going to this achievement for quite a long time. Not every state can become a member of this organization, because it should be a fairly responsible state. Membership in this body is elective. That is, the states participating in the UN activities, they vote for specific candidates. Kazakhstan also went through this procedure, and the fact that our republic previously successfully presided over various international organizations played good role in it.
Государство сыграло то, что Казахстан до этого не раз уже председательствовал в различных международных организациях и всегда занимал очень конструктивную позицию.
The Shanghai Cooperation Organization was established in 2001 on the basis of the Shanghai Five, which was established after the heads of Kazakhstan, China, Russia, Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan signed the agreement on strengthening confidence-building measures in the military field and the agreement on mutual reduction of armed forces in the border area. According to the Charter of the SCO of June 7, 2002, strengthening of friendship, mutual trust and good neighborliness is one of the organization's priorities. Encouragement of effective cooperation in political, trade, economic, cultural and other spheres.
Что касается состава ШОС, то она состоит, скажем так, образно из 3 групп стран, имеющие каждый...
As for the members of the SCO, this organization consists, figuratively speaking, of 3 groups of countries, of which each has its own status. The first group is the member countries, and it can now be noted that this group has been replenished with 2 new countries, India and Pakistan. So now we have 8 countries in the organization, so this is a fairly large area with a significant potential. The second group of countries is the observer states, and at the moment this group includes 4 countries: Afghanistan, Iran, Mongolia and Belarus. Peculiarity of this organization is that there is a third group of countries called partner countries in the case. This is the most extensive group, and it can be said that it includes countries from different regions: Azerbaijan, Armenia, Cambodia, Nepal and Sri Lanka, and interestingly also Turkey. Therefore, even such an enumeration with breakdown into groups shows the features of this organization.
Поэтому вот даже такое перечисление с разбивкой на группы показывает особенности этой организации.
The SCO is not a military bloc or an open regular security meeting, but takes an intermediate position. The main tasks of the organization are the strengthening of stability and security in a broad area that unites the participating states, fight against terrorism, separatism, extremism and drug trafficking, development of energy partnership, scientific and cultural interaction.
Здесь, наверное, еще можно упомянуть или добавить тот факт, что
It's probably worth mentioning here the fact that just in the conditions of external instability, in a situation when indeed the global and regional risks have really increased our challenges, it's just the interaction in the economy, the multilateral cooperation is the stabilizing factor, which allows to ensure, among other things, stability through economic development.
который позволяет обеспечить в том числе и стабильность через экономическое развитие.
Indeed, the economic direction of the SCO activity has a multi-vector character. It means it implies the development of mutual relations of member countries of the organization in a number of directions.
Во-первых, это усиление собственного экономического потенциала, которая реализует долгосрочные стратегии.
First, it is the strengthening of its own economic potential, which realizes the long-term strategies of the organization. A large set of measures and issues related to the expansion, enhancement of the potential of mutual trade, many initiatives, many different approaches, proposals for the development of this direction. Because indeed, it is trade that is the basis for economic cooperation, as we know, both bilaterally and multilaterally, just within the organization.
В двустороннем, так и в многостороннем формате, как раз вот в рамках организации.
Today, within the framework of the development of regional economic processes, the organization is searching for new models of international cooperation. In order to ensure joint projects of participating countries, there is now a discussion on the establishment of new structures such as, for example, the Development Bank and the Development Fund of SCO. Trade remains the basis for the development of economic relations in the region. In this regard, the agreement on cooperation in the field of transport and road transportation is effective, experts say. They also call the education and science the perspective direction of cooperation.
Есть уже достаточно много лет действует проект международный.
There is an international project operating for many years already, the SCO University, which includes more than 50 universities from the SCO member countries, where joint international programs, academic mobility and joint research are being implemented. Now there is a training on several, 6 I guess, areas: nanotechnology, ecology, information technology, energy economics and teaching. That is, you can also see what a wide range this organization has, and it would be desirable that this project become the locomotive in development of other directions of cooperation in the field of science and education.
Вот этот проект, он был локомотивом в развитии других направлений сотрудничества в области науки и образования.
The Republic of Kazakhstan stood at the origins of the establishment of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, and one of the main directions in the country's foreign policy was participation in its activities. Since the beginning of the SCO, Kazakhstan has been actively participating in the work of the organization, and in 2010-2011 was its chairman. The organization occupies a key place in the center of the SCO territory because of its geographical location. Kazakhstan pays special attention to relations with neighboring countries, and one of the proofs of this is the economic initiative Belt of the Silk Road.
Уже принято решение о так называемом сопряжении вот нашей
It is already decided on the so-called conjugation of our strategic program Joly precisely with this initiative, and a corresponding plan for such an interface in China has already been signed. This initiative was also adopted and approved within the SCO organization. What does this mean? In the framework of the annual meeting in Ufa, Russia, and the adopted declaration, it was already stated that the SCO member countries support this Chinese initiative in creating the economic belt of the Silk Road and consider it important to establish consultations between the interested departments of the countries to determine the plan and the way to implement the initiative.
С ведомствами стран для определения плана и пути реализации инициативы.
Integration processes occur not only in Central Asia but throughout the world. Many of them last for more than a decade. From the point of view of economic integration, the European Union is the most advanced association in the world. To date includes 28 states, 6 of which were at the roots of the formation of the EU.
In 1951, in Paris, France, Germany, Italy, Belgium, the Netherlands and Luxembourg entered into the treaty establishing a European Coal and Steel Association. 6 years later, the same countries signed agreements on the establishment of the European Economic Community and the European Atomic Energy Community. It is generally believed that they laid the constitutional foundations of the European Union.
The common EU market provides freedom of movement to capital, labor, goods and services. The physical, technical and financial barriers within the European Union have been eliminated as much as possible, which means almost complete abolition of borders and taxes for the European citizens. Many of the EU countries use a single monetary currency, the euro. Most of the member countries of the association are members of the Schengen zone, which allows their citizens to move almost freely throughout the EU. Another example of successful integration is the free trade agreement between Canada, the US and Mexico.
The agreement on the establishment of the North American Free Trade Association, NAFTA, entered into force on the 1st of January 1994. The total population of the NAFTA countries is just under 500 million people, and the nominal GDP exceeds $20 trillion. The main goal of NAFTA is to remove barriers to trade and investment between the US, Canada and Mexico.
If the integration processes in the EU went from the top down, from governments and state bodies, then in North America from the bottom up, that is, from the desire for cooperation at the micro level between American and Canadian corporations to cooperate at the macro level. The process of transition to free trade in the NAFTA was very difficult. Elimination of duties in trade took about 14 years. Only in 2018 the duties in trade between Mexico and the USA and between Mexico and Canada were finally abolished. World experts say that in 2018 the agreement can undergo significant changes. Not only geographically close countries create integration associations.
BRICS is a group of 5 fast-growing countries: Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa. The BRICS countries cover more than a quarter of the land and over 40% of the world's population. Their combined GDP exceeds $17 trillion. In addition, the BRICS countries have huge reserves of natural resources and influence global markets.
During the period of independent development, the Republic of Kazakhstan took a worthy place in the system of international relations. The national interests were realized, the own concept of foreign policy was worked out, the judicial base of international relations was developed, friendly and partner relations were established not only with its closest neighbors, but also with the majority of the states of the West and the East.
Как видите, по всей видимости, все-таки эта многовекторная политика, несмотря на некоторые все-таки минусы.
As you can see, a multi-vector policy, in spite of some disadvantages, brings its fruits. At least from a political point of view, we are quite secure. From an economic view, we are safe. So now we can develop the economy that we can afford. We are good at being a transport artery. We are good at tourism, maybe health tourism, since we have morale farms and ecotourism. So there are a lot of things that we can develop.
У нас моралеведческие хозяйства, где туда можно... У нас есть экологический туризм. То есть у нас есть много того, чего мы можем развивать.
Kazakhstan established diplomatic relations with 139 states of the world, thus opening more than 70 foreign missions. In Kazakhstan, diplomats of more than 100 foreign states, representatives of regional and international organizations are accredited. The Republic is a full member of the UN and other major international and intergovernmental organizations such as the CIS, OSCE, OIC, CSTO and SCO.
Казахстан не был просто пассивным.
Kazakhstan was not just a passive participant. Always within the framework of any organization, Kazakhstan took an active position. Kazakhstan always had some positive ideas, proposals, and these were not just unfounded proposals. All proposals that sounded from Kazakhstan have always been backed by specific implementation mechanisms, financial, economic, political and legal instruments, and so on.
Политическими, правовыми и так далее.
Kazakhstan has not yet missed the opportunity to become an educational center for the whole Central Asia, and for Mongolia, and for Xinjiang, and and for Afghanistan and for Pakistan and for India.
Пакистана, да, и для Индии.
Kazakhstan today is rightly considered a major player in international geopolitics, which is due to its convenient geographical location on the border of two continents, Europe and Asia, and between key participants in international relations, Russia and China. Vast territories, huge reserves of minerals and other natural resources allow the country to increase its international political rating and the right course of foreign policy to ensure security and stability of the entire region of Central Asia.